Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. In today's episode, I wanted to do another lesson in insanity. And yes, today we are looking at the quote-unquote ununited states of America. As some folks would call it, the United States of America. I would call it at times, unfortunately, the ununited states of America. Now, why are we ununited? What is happening in the United States that is making us ununited? I'm calling it SIC. S-I-C. Sierra, India, Charlie. SIC. S-I-C. Now, what is that an acronym for? What is that an acronym for? Some of you may be able to think a little bit and come up with that acronym. It is simply schools, immigration, and culture. SIC. S-I-C. That is what is happening right now in the United States that is essentially slowly destroying the country. Schools, immigration, and culture. Now, are all of these, is schools more important than culture? Is culture more important than schools? Is immigration more important than schools or culture? I would say no. They are all equally important. They're all equally important. What is happening in the school system? Well, right now, if you are a school student, if you are in grade school or in university, you are not in school to learn. Learning is somewhat of a byproduct of actually what is happening in the school systems of the United States. And what is really happening is an indoctrination process that is occurring. Now look, some teachers, some supporters of teachers will say that's not the case. Most teachers are there to teach and help students learn. Is that the case? Probably not. In some cases, yes, maybe, yes. But I would say right now, the majority of school teachers are not there to teach reading, writing, and arithmetic. Colleges, universities in the United States right now are indoctrination centers. They are not front and center designed to teach advanced knowledge. That is not their primary goal. Their primary goal right now is to indoctrinate. It is to teach wokeism. Now, we can call it left-wing ideology, we can call it wokeism, call it what you will. It is, beyond a shadow of a doubt, poisoning and creating a byproduct of culture in the United States that is suicidal, that is designed to look inward upon yourself and create some sort of internal self-hatred, especially if you are a white European male. Absolutely. Absolutely. Men are being neutered and essentially castrated at an alarming rate. I have never in my life interacted with so many males that are coming out of these so-called institutions of learning, be it grade school or university, that speak with a self-induced lisp. It's bizarre. Incredibly strange. And unfortunately, the radical 60s Marxist, leftist, have essentially created a more radically bizarre teacher than themselves. And then those radically bizarre teachers that were taught by the 60s radical has then created an even more bizarre caricature than those who taught them. And this is where we get into the realm of transvestites and sexual nationalism and sexual ideology. It is suicidal in nature. It is self-destructing. And that is what is happening in the schools. And that's why this must be fixed. Immigration. I want to circle back or circle towards immigration now. What's interesting? You have the children of the illegal, undocumented, quote-unquote, immigrant that crossed the border illegally, or they entered the United States legally and then stayed too long and essentially decided that they were part of the United States. They felt that they were now citizens because they have been here for so long. But that's not the case. That is simply not the case. The children of these illegal aliens that, again, either crossed the border illegally or stayed too long and should have had since gone back to their country of origin, most of which are from Mexico. Quite a few are from other South American nation states. But again, because they stayed and they were then able to have children, those children, according to current U.S. law, were able to become citizens. Are they citizens? Are the children of illegal immigrants really citizens? Are they really? What does that mean? Well, one can say they are a citizen, but not really be a citizen. So you have a combination of things going on within the confines of the illegal immigrant community that has had children. And then those children have been indoctrinated in the U.S. school system. So you kind of have a double whammy there. Illegal immigrants that created children, and then those children were then indoctrinated in the U.S. school systems by these radical neoliberals. They were then told, again, the children of illegal immigrants were then told that this is a bad country. This is a horrible place. Actually, this was originally your country, and it was stolen from you, and it was turned into something evil. A lot of the children, a large percentage of the children of illegal immigrants have that perception. They believe they live in a colonialist empire that should be destroyed. They believe this. It would be interesting to see what percentage of the children of illegal immigrants actually register for selective service. Selective service, if you're a foreign national watching the program, is essentially signing up to be conscripted in case of war. In case of a major war that becomes so horrendous, the United States would have to reinstitute a draft. The selective service process is designed to create that body of fighting age males that could be called upon in a time of war. So again, there's no data that I could find that would give accurate information about just how many children of illegal immigrants actively register for selective service. We don't know. My guess is it may be higher than what I believe it is. And part of that is because they get free stuff. If you don't register for selective service, you can't get some of the free benefits or some of the benefits such as quote-unquote indoctrination loans, student loans, to go to your indoctrination process. Go through your university indoctrination process. Your left-wing neoliberal indoctrination process at university. So maybe they do. Maybe they actually register for selective service for that reason, and that reason only, because I highly doubt that if the United States were to be invaded or go into a state of armed conflict where a draft would have to be instituted, I highly doubt very many of the children of illegal immigrants would step forward, pick up a firearm, and go fight for the United States. I think even on the side of the legal U.S. citizenry, given what is happening in the U.S. school system, kind of circling back to schools, it would be very difficult to institute a draft, to fight a war right now, especially right now. They just wouldn't do it, or physically, so many of them are fat and obese and on some sort of psychotropic medication that they would be unqualified for military service. Unfortunately, that's the state that we are living in right now, and it's part of the broader issue and why we are slowly being destroyed from within. Immigration, illegal immigration, causes a distortion in populations, which directly creates a false narrative within the confines of the body politic of the United States. It changes the population demographics for future-facing elections. And on top of that, most of these individuals that are coming in illegally, that are then being fed or being assisted in many of these blue states where illegal immigration is high, they are naturally going to vote in support of that blue, quote-unquote, government. The Social Democrats. But again, what is more disconcerting is the children and the children's children of the illegal immigrant. You mix that with the indoctrination that is going on in the school system, and you have a much more indoctrinated radical. And that's what we are seeing. Now, that's not in all cases, but I would say in the majority of cases, that is the case. There are some, obviously, illegal immigrants that come into the United States that then believe that they are citizens, they have children, and they raise those children the right way. And they become diehard Americans. But I don't think that is the majority, unfortunately. From my perspective, the majority of children of illegal immigrants that claim to be American citizens and are given that right under current law that rightfully so should be changed at some point. It absolutely has to be changed and should be changed. Those individuals, those children of illegal immigrants are poison. Fundamentally poisonous to the national culture. Now let's swing into culture. SIC. Schools, immigration, and then finally culture. The culture that exists right now in the United States is not sustainable. It is an integration of technology and popular culture and experimental thought coming out of the school systems that are creating a poisonous culture. A culture that is not designed to be sustainable. A culture that right now, in some cases, embraces what I call speaking music. Speaking sounds that are then classified as quote-unquote music in some populations of the United States. Chicago, for instance. Chicago, the indigenous population of parts of Chicago, are big fans of speaking sounds. Now you can take it for what it's worth and what that may mean, and I think you may know what that means, but the reality is we are regressing. We are not improving. The culture that exists right now, popular culture, pop culture, integrate it with technology, integrate it with what is happening in the school systems, what is happening with immigration, is creating a culture that is not designed to advance. It is not progressive. It calls itself that, but the reality is it's regressive. Regressive. Culture. The celebration of the rainbow flag over the flag of the United States or your state flag. There are areas in the large city that I live in, as you drive down the street, you will see more of the flags of celebration of certain sexual behaviors rather than the actual state or national flag. They are broadcasting their sexuality. And again, this is part of a very, very sick culture. Incredibly sick culture. And this is where we are at. Schools, immigration, and culture. So what is to be done? Well, to fix this, to reverse these three challenges, is going to be very difficult. Especially for those that are going to have to undergo forced change. If the country is to progress forward and ultimately not disintegrate and go by the wayside of history, something will have to change. And it's going to be dramatic. It is going to be traumatic. It is going to be kinetic. But that is the only pathway right now to get us out of this mess. And yes, arduous, traumatic, kinetic, difficult. But if we take those steps, we can get out of this. It's not going to be easy. It is going to be incredibly difficult. But in order to survive, we are going to have to intervene and counter what is happening in the U.S. school systems, immigration, and finally culture. It's going to have to change. What is happening right now, at some point, will have to stop. If it doesn't stop, again, we are heading towards the end. And another civilization, in all probability, will take the place of the United States as a world power. And in all likelihood, we will see our nation, the United States, eventually break apart. This will be a zero-sum game. There will have to be a victor, and that victor will have to vanquish the defeated. And in this case, the propagators of the sickness that is happening in the schools, the indoctrination centers, immigration policy, and culture, the propagators of this sickness will have to be disposed of. It just has to happen. If you want to see the United States move forward and prosper and not break apart. And again, it is something that is going to be incredibly difficult. It is not going to be easy. As we watch what is happening right now in terms of the current leadership in the United States taking direct action against crime, against illegal immigration. Right now, this is taking place. We are seeing the National Guard, elements of federal law enforcement being moved into some of these cities that are essentially ungovernable. We are seeing the current leadership of the United States trying to take action in terms of what is happening with immigration. And unfortunately, that is going to have to be expanded. Laws are going to have to be changed or simply, in some cases, ignored. Natural law will need to take precedent over created neoliberal law. Natural law. You have the right to defend yourself. Neoliberal law, in many cases, state that you do not have that right. You do not have the right to defend yourself. You will die in place. Or if you do defend yourself in some of these big cities, you will then find yourself in prison. That is against natural law. Fictitious law does not override natural law. It does not. You may think it does. If you were indoctrinated in the school systems of the United States, you may actually believe that. You may view yourself as a neoliberal, as something that doesn't deserve the right to exist, but at the end of the day, you do. So yeah, it is going to be tough. Now, if this doesn't happen, again, we had a good run. But unfortunately, the house must be cleansed. It has to be. What is happening right now in the USA is simply not sustainable. It's not. So the cleansing has started. The cleanup has begun. And you're watching right now the early stages of that cleansing process taking place. Really right now, at the forefront of this cleansing process is federal law enforcement, some cases local law enforcement pertaining to immigration. And then we are also seeing cleanup efforts taking place inside of the military. This is the counter push, the counter reaction to this cultural sickness that has started to erode the military. So the military will have to be purged of this cultural sickness, eliminated, destroyed, pushed out. And then the culture within the United States can be changed and cleansed as well. Now look, I get it. For some, what I am saying is scary. And if you are sitting on the other side of the fence, opposite to me, yeah, you should be scared. You should be. Because what you have let happen or have been a follower of, you cannot conceptualize what you're doing right now is wrong. And we're in a place right now where even in the halls of politics in which highly educated persons on the left are being asked a simple question. For instance, what is a woman? We've all seen this, and they can't answer the question. They are so steeped in their ideology. They are blind, and they are deaf. But, again, this is going to have to be fixed. Whether that person who cannot answer that question, likes it or doesn't like it, they're going to have to be removed, purged, cleansed, and removed from those positions of power. Completely. So it's coming. It is absolutely on the way, and this must happen. The fixing of SIC, schools, immigration, and culture. As always, thank you for joining us for another lesson in insanity or future-facing sanity. Have a good day.